Good afternoon, distinguished speaker, respected colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the sixth sessions of the FAO Technical Lecture Series 2026. On behalf of the Food and Agriculture Coordination of the United Nations and the Asian University Network for Agriculture and Food Security, the Asian University Network and University Putra Malaysia, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to everyone joining us today. Thank you for continuing to be part of the lecture series. And before we begin, allow me to share some housekeeping reminders. Today's webinar will be recorded. And then kindly keep your microphone muted throughout the session. And then we encourage you also to submit your question throughout the lecture using the Zoom Q&A. And following the presentation, I will moderate the Q&A session and direct the question to our speaker. Thank you again for joining us. So let me introduce today's lectures. It's on the fundamentals of food composition data and explain why it's so important for nutrition research, public health, and agri-food system. And also this session, we highlight common challenges in assessing and using food composition data, particularly in the Asia-Pacific regions. And also participants will also be introduced to the International Network of Food Data System, INFOODS, coordinated by FAO, and to its role in improving the quality and accessibility of food composition data worldwide. And also some example of FAO INFOOD tool databases and also resources relevant to researchers in Asia Pacific also will be discussed. And also, I would like to give a bit introduction of our speaker today. Dr. Fernanda Grande, is a nutrition officer specializing in food composition in the dietary intake and food composition team within the Food and Nutrition Divisions of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. She holds a PhD in Applied Human Nutrition from the University of São Paulo, Brazil. With over 15 years of experience in food composition, she has contributed to the development and updating of 12 national and internationally published food composition tables and databases, as well as one FAO INFOODS guidelines. Fernanda has trained professionals from multiple countries through FAO INFOOD online and in-person courses and also workshops. Since September 2025, she has served as the global coordinator of INFOOD, the international networks of experts dedicated to improving the quality, availability, and use of food composition. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Fernanda Grande. Thank you for being us today. And now I think the session is yours.
Thank you so much, Ms. Zera, for this kind introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening for everyone from anywhere that you are joining this session. Thank you so much for your time and for attending this session today. It's my pleasure to be here with you. Let me start by sharing my screen. Just a second so we can have the presentation to start. Bear with me. Here. 3. Okay. All right, now you should already see my slides. I want to see you as well. All right. So the session we are going to have today is what is in our food, the importance of food composition data for research and policies in Asia and the Pacific. And here I just want to mention again that I am a nutritionist. I'm working the nutrition and food and nutrition division at FAO within the dietary assessment and food composition team. And today I want to give you an overview of what food composition data are, how they are generated, what is the importance, and how can you get this information as well. So before I start, I would like to ask you to write here in the chat if you have already used food composition data in your research work. So you can please answer in the chat yes or no, so I can have an idea of how many of you are already aware of food composition data and have any experience with it. So if you can write in the chat, we can have a look on the responses. So even if you are not familiar with food composition data in your work, I'm sure that you might be familiar with nutrient values from a consumer perspective. So we have in the label of the food products available on the supermarket, we can see the nutrient content of the foods that we eat. And these values are many times based on data from food composition tables and databases. So here we have an example of a food composition table from West Africa. And this is a very nice example of the information that you see in food composition tables. So for printed books or for PDFs, you see pages and pages full of data. Of course, there are other formats of food composition databases. Today, the searchable websites are very common, and the preferred format that we have is the machine readable format. So, for example, Excel files or other formats that are easier to extract and use the data. And anyone that is familiar or have already used food composition data have already experienced how it's difficult sometimes to extract the information from a PDF, for example, or from searchable websites. So food composition tables and databases, they basically describe the content of energy and nutrients from foods. But it also includes, in addition to nutrients and energy, also information on edible portion, and sometimes about also non-nutrients, for example, phytochemicals and anti-nutrients. The food composition tables should include all foods, ideally, all foods consumed by a given population. So this should include raw foods, cooked foods, the foods that are processed, and also the recipes that we also call mixed dishes, because most of the foods, they are consumed in this way. So ideally, each country should have its own food composition table with the foods consumed by the local population, because of course, as you know, the foods available in the different countries, they vary. The way that they are prepared is different as well. And also other factors that affect the composition of foods, they change from country to country. So this is why this information should be country specific. Food composition data is at the core of nutrition and agri-food systems. So food composition table has many different uses. So for example, food composition data is very important to estimate nutrient intake, and this information is extremely useful for many different activities. Food composition data is also needed for establishing dietary guidelines, nutrient requirements, the food labeling that I mentioned at the beginning, and it's also extremely important for research. So if we want to establish any relationship between nutrient intake and also health or disease, we need food composition data. Food composition data should also be used for agricultural policies. So, for example, for breeding, for selecting foods that are more nutritious and that should be prioritized for production and consumption, of course. for special diet formulation as well, and for food aid or food fortification. And all those activities that I mentioned, they are extremely important for food, nutrition, health, and agricultural policies. So food composition data is one of the pieces that forms the basis for all those activities. But how do countries actually move from foods to the numbers that we see in food composition tables? So ideally, this process begins with foods being sampled and analyzed specifically for the purpose of creating or updating a national food composition table. And this requires a national sampling plan, so meaning that foods will be collected in different parts of the country to represent the foods that are available for the population, including, for example, different varieties, different brands, different seasons, and also different regions of the country. The samples should then be analyzed using appropriate analytical methods, using quality assurance procedures. And this is what we say the ideal method for producing a food composition table and food composition data. However, this process, as you may know, is very expensive and requires specialized laboratory facilities and trained analysts as well. So these capacities, both from human and financial, or even the facilities for doing this analysis, sometimes they are not available in many countries. So often this leads to the need of finding alternative solutions to create food composition tables. And so what countries do? So many countries need to rely on additional approaches to build or update their national food composition tables. And this includes, in addition to the direct analysis, which I mentioned is the preferred or the ideal approach, we also complement this information with the compilation of analytical values from other sources, so usually from scientific literature. So if any of you here have already published food composition data in your scientific papers, you should know that this is of great interest of people working on food composition tables, because this is precious information that we can collect and include in these databases. We also have other options to make data calculation and imputation. So, for example, when we calculate the nutrient content of a cooked food based on the composition of the raw ingredients, or sometimes we need to borrow values from other food composition tables. Ideally, when we do this, we choose food composition tables from neighboring countries, because we believe that the foods are more similar. And then when we think about how food composition tables are created, in most of the cases, they are a combination of these two options. So the direct method, so an analysis done for the purpose of creating this food composition table, and a combination of all these other options that I mentioned here. So of course, you can imagine that food composition tables, they will vary a lot in terms of how they are created, the proportion of this direct analysis and all these other options that I mentioned, and in terms of data quality and documentation. And I will talk a bit more about this in a few slides. So food composition data is at the core of FAO's work, and FAO has a long story in food composition data compilation and dissemination. This work is embedded and in the FAO's Food and Nutrition Division work for over 25 years. And food composition tables and databases are typically prepared in collaboration with country governments and or universities as well. And the Food and Nutrition Division support countries and other FAO offices, divisions, and units compiling and using food composition data. On this slide here, you can see some historical examples of food composition tables that exist only in printed paper format because they were published many decades ago. Just as an example of how long FAO is working on food composition. And FAO has also served as the global coordinator of the International Network of Food Data Systems that we call INFOODS since 1999. So the INFOODS, the International Network of Food Data Systems, is a voluntary global network of experts established over 40 years ago to improve the quality, availability, reliability, and use of food composition data around the world. And currently, I'm serving as the global coordinator, and we have also a vice coordinator in India, and regional data centers and coordinators around the globe. I will show you how you can find information about those regional data centers and the global coordinators in a moment. So the FAO's activities in food composition data, they are numerous and varied, and they include basically the development of up-to-date and high-quality food composition tables and databases. Also, the generation of evidence on food composition data use and applications, the development of international standards and guidelines to help both food composition people preparing food composition tables and the users as well. And in addition, we also coordinate the INFOODS network. We organize meetings, international conferences, and many capacity building activities on food composition. FAO has been involved in the publication of many national, regional, global, and specific food composition tables. Here I'm bringing some examples from the past 15 years. And here you can see that it includes the recent launched Ethiopian food composition table launched December last year. Also the West African and the Kenya food composition table. And we also have other specific and global food composition tables. So for example, the phytate food composition table, the UFish, the analytical, and the biodiversity databases. As you can see here, these three databases are being updated to make sure that they are up to date and as complete as possible. One recent activity I want to highlight in the region was the development of the Asian food composition database that was launched in 2024. This regional database was established by the Rural Development Administration of Korea through the Asian Food and Agriculture Cooperation Initiative. The aim of this database was to generate information on the nutrient content for major agricultural products in Asia and to preserve food, culture, and biodiversity. So the phase 1 was concluded and published in 2024, and the database includes information for more than 900 food items produced by 11 countries that were part of this project. It includes information on 16 components, including macronutrients, carbohydrate, protein, and fat, minerals, vitamins, and energy. And the database can be downloaded from this website. And the phase 2 of this project is still ongoing. They will generate new analytical data for approximately another 100 foods per country that are participating in the project, but now the focus is on traditional foods and recipes. So this is an important and recent activity in the region that I'm sharing with you. Sorry, I forgot to mention that FAO is collaborating, of course, with this project. We have been providing some technical advice and also participating in the trainings that are part of this project. So in addition to preparing the food composition table, capacity development is an important part of this project. And we have also being part of the training and the capacity development in all these countries that are participating in the project. And the idea is that this is the start for some of these countries that don't have a food composition table, so they can update or create their new food composition tables. Another important part of our work at FAO is the food composition web page. This food composition web page centralizes important food composition resources for both compilers and users of food composition data. The old version of the website had over 70,000 users in only 1 year, so showing the strong and growing interest for the topic. The entire page, the entire old page, went through a major update, and the phase 1 of this update became available just a couple of months ago. And this includes part of the content and the main page, that is the page tables and databases, which was the most accessed page on the previous website. So this one. Just to show you this page, in this page you can find a list of published food composition tables at global, regional, and national level. This directory was first compiled by INFOODS almost 40 years ago and has been, of course, updated since then. But this last update was based on a systematic review to make sure that it offers the most comprehensive and up-to-date information available. We also had feedback from the INFOODS regional data centers during this update. And the aim of this directory is to increase access to food composition data by serving as a catalog of published food composition tables. So in this, with this aim, the inclusion of food composition databases in this directory does not mean that we recommend or that we say that the food composition table is of good quality. So users here, they can find the resources and they need to access the quality of the food composition table and if the data is fit for the purpose. And we have some tools to facilitate this assessment, and I will show this information in a moment when we speak about the quality of food composition tables. But now I would like to pause the presentation a bit and move to the website just to show you quickly how you can search for food composition tables and other important information on the website. So let me change from the presentation to the website. So this is the new food composition website. It's a pleasure to present here. As I said, it was just launched 2 months ago. So here in the home page, you have some basic information and some highlights regarding videos, e-learnings, and news on food composition. On the overview, you can see in the format of questions and answers some important information regarding food composition data. We have a session on INFOODS. So here you have some information on the structure and roles, information about the International Food Data Conference, which is the official INFOODS conference, and information on the regional data centers. And this is one of the pieces that I want to show you. So here, if you come to the regional data centers, you can find, I will use Asian foods just as an example. You'll find the countries covered under a certain region. When available, if the regional data center has a website, the link is here, and you have the details for coordinator, vice coordinator, and scientific advisor when available. So this is for all the different data centers. So if you are developing research using food composition data, it might be a good idea to contact our regional data centers for collaboration. Another important part here is the page that I just mentioned, the directory, where you have the tables and databases. So here in the map, you can see all the country-specific food composition tables. So to make it easier, so you can click and the map will show you the tables that are available for each country. So we can have a look here in Asia. Let's move. So for example, here we have Thailand, we have 2 food composition tables. Here we have 3. And then when you click, you can see the name and the year of the food composition table. But of course, to facilitate the search, you will see the full list below, ordered by alphabetical order below the map, but you can also search by free text, by location, which is the country, by region, and also by status. So here you will see a big list of food composition tables, and when you click, I will take the first one just as an example. When you click in one record, you will see additional information about this record. So for example, you have the country, region, the year of last publication, if it's free access, the format. So here we have, for example, printed book and static document. So it's a PDF. The language. When the data set is available online, you have the link to the data set. So this is external from FAO. It's just a link. We have the scoring the screening questions of the FAO INFOODS evaluation framework. I will explain a bit more about it. And you have the full reference. So the idea of this directory is to centralize all known food composition tables available and to make it easier for users to find this information. And in addition to the tables and databases, we have the resources. So here we have videos and webinars and publications. And I invite you to navigate and to explore the website after our session. So now going back to our presentation, after we did this walk through the new website, I want to show you some of the findings we had after updating these tables and databases directory. Because after doing this exercise, we could have a global picture of the data that is available around the globe, and this is what I want to share with you now. So after updating the FAO INFOODS directory of food composition tables, we found that 107 countries have published at least one specific food composition table. And these countries are marked in green here in the map. This is a significant achievement, of course, in terms of global coverage. However, as I mentioned, food composition tables, they vary a lot in terms of accessibility, format, frequency of updates, and other quality aspects. So, considering all these issues related to food composition tables, we used this updated directory to further access the key aspects to identify also opportunities to improve the quality of food composition tables. So in the next few slides, I will show you some key findings of these assessments. So the first thing we did was to check the type of access of these food composition tables. And we found that out of the 107 countries with at least one food composition table that we can see in this map, only 71% of the food composition tables offer free access to the data. This means that almost 1/3 of the food composition tables are not freely accessible. So in some cases, it's because they are available, they're old and they are available only in printed format, or because they require a paid subscription, which can limit the data use. And if we go further and also check the format of the food composition tables, only 30% of the food composition tables available, they are both free access and available in user-friendly formats. And user-friendly formats are, as I mentioned, for example, Excel, CSV, or similar formats that facilitate the data use and application in other food composition in other databases. So considering these aspects, we can see that the availability of food composition tables has significantly decreased around the globe. The formats like PDF, printed versions, or even searchable websites, they don't allow users to extract and handle the data in an efficient way. So this can limit the use of the data. And I want just to, here we saw the global picture, and I just want to mention that when we go to the countries in Asia, we see that the picture is basically the same as we see in the global map. So we found 32 countries in Asia that have published at least one food composition table, and the proportion is more or less the same. 75% offer free access, and only 25% are free access and in a user-friendly format. So you can see that the proportion is basically the same, and that having free access and user-friendly formats is still an issue. But also, when we go to the time since the last update of food composition tables, we also see some interesting findings. So here this map shows the time since the last publication for each of the 107 countries with at least one food composition table. The darker the shading, the longer it has been. So as you can see, there is a significant variation across countries. So while 39% of the countries published the last version less than 5 years ago, another 30% have gone more than 15 years without revision. These are the countries shown in the darker color. And this is an important aspect because even high quality data that was generated by direct analysis can become obsolete without frequent updates. And again, highlighting Asian countries, and you can see that the variation is also big, and we can see countries that have published recently and countries that also have more than 15 years without any update. So just checking this initial quality aspects, we found this big variation. And then as another step on this quality assessment, we use it for selected food composition tables, the FAO INFOODS evaluation framework to access the quality of published food composition tables and databases. So this tool was developed for compilers and users of food composition tables. And the objectives are first for users to assist the selection of appropriate food composition tables for your use. So here you can have a picture of the quality and understand the strengths and limitations of food composition tables. You can also use this evaluation framework to demonstrate areas of improvement for compilers. So people managing the food composition table, they can see the aspects that could be improved in a future revision. So those are the main objectives of this FAO INFOODS evaluation framework. And this tool is available, and you can find it through the food composition websites that I just showed here. And this evaluation framework is composed of two different parts. So we have the screening questions, we have 8 screening questions, and we have the full evaluation. So the 8 screening questions, they were prepared to give an option of a quick assessment of key quality aspects, while the full evaluation has almost 200 questions and is a very deep and detailed assessment. So to have an initial global picture of the gaps and strengths of food composition tables available around the globe, we applied these 8 screening questions to some of the food composition tables that we found. And the screening questions, they cover these 4 key aspects. So it accesses the food description and the food coverage, the component description and the component coverage, data documentation, and publication format. And I will give you some examples that will make it easier to understand. So when you go through these 8 screening questions, you will see that the answers in most of the cases is yes or no. And each question contributes to a cumulative score with a maximum of 120 points. And the evaluation framework suggests that 100 should be the minimum that a good food composition table should get, indicating that so if you have food composition tables scoring less than 100, there is a need of improvement in critical aspects, quality aspects for the food composition table. So what were the results of this assessment? So we accessed 80 food composition tables using these screening questions. The tables access the country-specific tables, so were 71, and they are marked here, the countries which were had a food composition table accessed. This assessment was performed by 2 independent experts, and then the assessments were compared, and an agreement was found when there was discrepancies. We accessed, in addition to the 71 country-specific, also 2 global and 7 regional food composition databases. And what we got? Only 40%, so 32 food composition tables, scored more than 100 points in this quality assessment. So the remaining 60% did not meet this this considered minimum score, meaning that improvements are needed for important part of the food composition tables considered in this assessment. The individual scores for this assessment are published in the directory of food composition tables that are available on the FAO INFOODS website. So in the example I showed you, there was the score on the evaluation framework and for the food composition tables that were accessed. So only the total score is there. But we have coming soon a peer-reviewed manuscript that was already submitted to the Journal of Food Composition and Analysis. And in this manuscript, we will give a lot of much more details on this analysis that I showed here. And also we will show for each food composition table the answers for all the individual 8 screening questions. So this information will be available for users as well. And now to finalize this quality part, I want to share with you a few findings on the areas of improvement that we found for food composition table, because this is very extremely relevant for users of food composition data. Because as users, you should be aware of the limitations of food composition tables to access the quality, and also to be aware of the limitations of the interpretations of your analysis using the food composition data. So one of the important areas for improvement is related to the food coverage, to the component coverage. So only 67% of the food composition tables accessed, they had less than the 16 components that we considered that should be included in the food composition tables. And this list is detailed here. So this list was established considering the components that are commonly presented in food composition tables and that are of big interest for public health importance. So it is of great interest of users of food composition data. So this should be what should be the minimum of components presented in a food composition table. So as you can see, 67 food composition tables were missing at least one of these key components. Another important area for improvement is related to the food description. So half of the food composition tables had food names and descriptions that are not well specified for at least some foods. And what does it mean? So here I'm bringing an example of tuna canned drained. It seems a good description of a food. When we read this, we can already imagine what this food is. But you see that one detail or one small detail that is missing in the food description. So the canning mean, if the food is canned in water or oil, in this case, the fat content is extremely different. So this is why a complete food description is extremely important. And of course, here is just an example, but there are many factors that should be reflected in the food description. And this should be when you are using the food composition data, you should consider this as an important aspect, quality aspect in food composition tables. And finally, another important area for improvement is related to the component description. So 43% of the food composition tables had components that were not well defined. When I say components, I'm referring to the nutrients and energy, most commonly food composition tables. And this is extremely important because sometimes the generic name, and here I'm bringing vitamin A as an example, is not enough to define a component. So in the case of vitamin A, there are different definitions and calculation methods for vitamin A. So depending on the definition that you use, you can see that the values are completely different. And what does it mean? Now, depending on how you are considering and how are you comparing this data, it can make a big difference. And especially if you are using more than one food composition table to take the nutrient values, which is extremely common when we use food composition data, that we need to take data from different food composition tables. If we mix these definitions in the case of vitamin A, it again will make a big difference in our conclusions. So this is why it's extremely important that the components or the nutrients are very well defined in terms of definitions, calculation methods, and also analytical methods used, so we can make sure that we are comparing the same values and we are using the value that we want when we are using food composition data. So as you can see here, I'm bringing just a few issues and examples related to the quality of food composition table. And this is recent work that was done here in FAO. And of course, that as part of our, an important part of our work in food composition is related to capacity development. We do a lot of activities on capacity development, both remote and in person, and today here is already a good example. But I want to bring, since this presentation is only a small part, just to give you a taste of all the aspects, issues, and considerations that we need to have when using food composition data. Of course, I want to bring you some other learning opportunities. So we have the e-learning course on food composition data in the FAO e-learning academy. This course gives a basic knowledge and understand on essential issues related to food composition tables, and it was designed primarily for use in universities, but it's of interest of anyone using or producing food composition data. It's also available in English and French. And this is the second most popular, this was the second most popular course on the FAO platform in 2024, with approximately 1,500 learners per year since its creation. Since this is a very specific course, it shows the importance and the interest, and I really encourage you who are working with food composition data somehow to take this course if you haven't done. We also have the e-learning course on aquatic foods for nutrition, and you can see that the lesson 3 focus on food composition data sources and use. This is complementary to the course that I just mentioned. And if you are interested in learning more about aquatic foods, you can take the entire course, and lesson 3 focus on food composition. As an in-person opportunity, we are already also part of the boarding for organizing the food composition course on the production use and use of food composition data in nutrition. This is a very traditional course in the area, so you can see this that we already had 16 editions. The next one will be June 2027 in Wageningen, the Netherlands, and there are a lot of information on the course webpage, and I will share this link with you after. And I really also strongly encourage you, if you are working with food composition data, that this is a very good opportunity to learn and exchange a lot in the topic. And last but not least, I want to share with you that, as I mentioned, the International Food Data Conference is the official INFOODS conference, and the last one was held September last year here in FAO headquarters. And you can find, when I share with you the PDF of the presentation, you'll be able to also click on the links here, but if you want to see the web page, you can scan the QR code, and here you will find the agenda and the book of abstract, and you can watch all the oral sessions, the oral presentation for the 3 days. We have the recordings available, so it's quite recent. I really recommend. It was a very nice and fruitful conference. And we are preparing the special issue with lots of interesting articles that will come later this year. So to close, my takeaway message would be that food composition data is critical, as you can see, because it's the basis for many activities on nutrition and also beyond nutrition. And of course, accurate, up-to-date, and country-specific food composition data is key. The new FAO food composition website, and especially the directory of food composition tables, improves the access to global food composition data and related resources. Capacity development is key. So improves the quality and also promotes the appropriate use of food composition data, and considering the complexities of generating and using food composition data, collaborative efforts are needed. So local and regional activities are critical to advance food composition globally. So thank you so much for your attention. I'm open to questions and to discussion. And just before I finish, I would like to thank Bridget Holmes, the team leader of the Dietary Assessment and Food Composition team, and the team members who are involved in many of the activities I presented here, including Doris, Yuko, Anna, and the rest of the Dietary Assessment and Food Composition data team at FAO. So thank you, Ms. Isera, and back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Grande, for a very nice talk. I think it's very impressive to see how the food composition data serve, like from the databases, and then it keeps updating year by year for the nutrition science, for food policy, and also public health. So for now, I think we would like to open the sessions for the Q&A. So if the participants do have some questions for Dr. Fernanda Grande, you can also write on the Q&A chat box. So we can share the questions to our speaker today.
There are 3 questions on the Q&A.
Do you want me to take them?
Yeah, sure, because I cannot see the questions here.
There are 3 questions. You can see where does the FAO get the data? This is one of the last one.
Yeah, so the data that FAO publishes in the food composition tables, in most of the cases, it comes from a compilation of scientific articles, as I mentioned. So it is analytical data, but compiled from the scientific literature. Usually, we don't do the direct analysis in our databases. But when we are collaborating with countries, so I can give Ethiopia as a recent example, we guide them and we do a mix, as I explained. So we do the direct analysis, so meaning that the local experts, they sample the foods in the country and then they send to the laboratory to do the analysis. But we also do the compilation of data available on scientific articles to complement this information. And we also collect information on recipe calculation to complement this information, because as I mentioned, it's not an easy task to have a complete food composition table including all the foods consumed by the population using only the direct analysis given the cost. So we do this mix of different sources.
Okay. Thanks. I think maybe I just read the second questions here. Why some of the data is not available in the database?
I'm not sure if I got this question, but I think it's referring maybe to missing values. So it's when some of the data are not available in the database, so or maybe missing foods. So when you try to find a food in a food composition table and you don't find it, or when you find the food but there are many blanks, what we call missing values. So this is because the data is not available. It's really the biggest challenge when you are compiling and putting together a food composition table. The biggest challenge is to include all the foods, because users, they want to open the table and find the foods that they are interested in, and also complete all the nutrient values that are there. So when they are missing is usually because they are not available. And when we are doing a food or preparing a food composition table and we find these cases where we cannot add or include the data because it's not available, this is something that we keep in mind for a next update when we have the possibility to generate new analytical data.
Okay, thanks for the answer. So, okay, maybe I read some more question here. Okay, from the Dr. Fernandez talk, is that the nutrient labels only get the information from a standard table, and that this means the printed nutrients are not actual.
So this came from, I think, my first slide when I showed the label, and I said that in many cases, the data that we see in the label, they are based on food composition tables. This is because in many cases, it's not mandatory to send the food to the laboratory to do the analysis to prepare that information that we see in the label, especially if we think in the smaller producers, this would be really difficult because analyzing foods is very expensive. So there is this option to calculate the information that we see in the label based on food composition tables. So in some cases, this information is indeed based on food composition tables and not on analysis performed to create that information that we see on the label.
Okay, thank you. I hope this will answer the question from the participants. Yeah, it's not really.
There's
one more, right?
Yes,
okay.
The last one.
Okay, I think there's more coming. I read the question here. Okay, I've never used an FST before. May I know if FCT data is considered obsolete after certain years, and is the evaluation framework used to determine this?
All right. There is not a cutoff that I can say any food composition table published more than X years ago is not appropriate anymore. In fact, I think this is more related to reflecting the foods that are still available in the market, because there are many, as I mentioned, many factors that affect the composition of foods. So over years, it can change the agricultural practices, the varieties that are cultivated, the type of foods, and this will affect the composition. On the other hand, also the analytical methodologies, they change, they get better over time, more precise. So having new data is good. So what we usually do, as I mentioned, we don't have, it's very difficult to analyze, to generate analytical data for all the foods that are consumed by the population. So what we do, we prioritize the foods that are consumed in higher quantities. And also sometimes we focus on traditional foods, on local foods, because we want to show the nutritious values of these foods to promote their consumption. So this is usually what we do. And just commenting quickly, I saw that another question just came on the barriers to prevent countries from having high quality food composition tables. So I think that a lot of discussion and a lot of capacity development is still needed. I didn't mention, but we shared as much as we could all the results of our assessments with the data managers of the food composition tables, because our idea doing this assessment is not point fingers and show who has 100 and who has not achieved 100, but we want to open the dialogue and improve the quality. And we were very surprised in a positive way, because most of the data managers, they were asking questions, trying to understand more what they need to do, and showing that they will improve certain aspects in the next versions of the food composition table. So I think that this is a good step forward to improve the quality of the food composition tables.
Okay, I think we don't have more questions, right? Maybe I do have one question for Dr. Fernanda, because my background is actually not, I'm a plant pathologist, but listening to your talk, I think it's really informative for me, because we are not really concerning to see the labels and so on when we purchase foods, and then and also the food composition database, I think it seems like to continue updating from years to year. So what are your suggestions and maybe some opportunities for young researchers, like in Asians, if you think they would like to contribute to this very important field? I think maybe from your side, you have been like very expert in this area. What is really your advice for the young researchers to really get involved in this area?
Okay. For all the researchers that are here today, I would, as I said, I would strongly recommend that you collaborate, because food composition tables, as I mentioned several times, they're difficult to produce because of many reasons. And collaboration, and this is the main spirit of INFOODS, this collaboration, is putting people together to come with these important databases. So I would strongly recommend that you contact the coordinators in your region that cover your country. The data centers in Asia, they are very active and they are always open to collaborate. So I would strongly recommend that you contact, share experience, and even get some guidance on how to work on this area. I think this would be my main recommendation.
Okay, nice. Thank you. Do we receive more questions from the participants?
No.
Maybe there's more questions from the participants. I would like to really.
If they wish to speak, I can allow them
Yes.
to speak. They just need to raise their hand.
Sure. So any more questions from the participants online? Okay, there's more. Okay, I read these questions. Okay. From the understanding, the data come from national authorities in FAO member states. they're asking, is it the data comes from the national authorities in FAO member states? This question for the Dr. Fernanda.
Yeah. So when we are, for example, when we are preparing a database like the fish database that we are updating now, which is not a country specific, it's a global database, we do receive data from many different countries and different organizations, sometimes universities, and sometimes also other organizations. And when we are collaborating specifically with a country to establish a national food composition table, then it's a co-author or a collaboration, and the national authorities are usually involved in this process. Yes, this is correct.
Okay. So the data really derived from the
Yeah,
member states.
especially for national food composition tables.
Okay. Okay. Okay, there is one more question here. Is there any microplastics data?
No, food composition tables for the moment, as much as I'm aware, they don't cover microplastics data.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry, I only have one question because I heard about traditional foods and these are always considered neglected species. What kind of examples do you have in relation to data composition for this type of food, traditional foods?
You mean projects or?
Yeah, if you can provide an example that how, I don't know, I'm thinking about native potatoes because I come from Peru. I don't know if you, or there is other type of examples, because by reading all the proposals from the students, many, I remember, were linked to try to conduct some research on indigenous traditional food on data composition. But I don't know if it's something that can be, if FAO has already, some work ongoing, or what is your suggestions on
Yes.
this thing?
We have the biodiversity food composition table that probably includes a lot of this information. The biodiversity food composition table you can also access through the directory of food composition tables. If you type there, you find it. This is a collection of information from scientific articles only on foods that represent biodiversity from the different countries. So it includes also the foods that are underutilized and sometimes the varieties that are not the most commonly consumed, but sometimes they are richer in nutrients. So this is one good source to look for. And just to mention an initiative as an example, as I said, the second phase of the Asian food composition table now is focusing in traditional foods and traditional recipes. So the next version of the table will include these foods for all the countries that are participating the project. And even though this is a regional table, when you open the table, you will see the data by country. So you can identify if you are interested in data for any of the countries that are included in the project. You have the data for the individual countries in the database.
Okay, I think there's one more question here. I think one question is concerned on the data quality. Like in PH, there is a concern that multiple government authorities, like agriculture, statistics, health, science, innovation, do not seem to talk and harmonize. Does the FAO database account note for possible discrepancy mismatch? So that was the questions that.
All right. Yeah, this is an issue, the lack of harmonization, especially when we use data from different sources. So this is why one of the aims of the INFOODS is to publish guidelines on how to publish the food composition data, so it's easier to exchange and interchange data among the different data sources. When you take a food composition table from FAO, published by FAO, all the sources, as I said, we use different sources, but all this data was harmonized and combined in a way that you can use this information within the database. Yeah.
Okay. I think do we have more questions from the participants? No, right? As I can see in my Q&A chat box, there's no more coming. No more, right? Okay. Well, I think there's no more question from the... So, okay, no more, right, Marilyn?
No, I think it just the last one, but we have to close the session. But there is where we can start and work or help contribute to improve the quality of the food composition tables, maybe as a students or fresh graduate.
Well, I think that the best way to start is to knowing more. So I think taking the courses that I recommended, and I'm always open to discuss if you have questions related to food composition. On the website, on the INFOODS website, you have an email, and if you send an email there, it will probably me replying. So if you have any questions, any research questions you can relate it to food composition, I would be happy to help you if I can.
Okay, I think we have to, it's close to the end, right, Marilyn? So, as a moderator here, I would like to thank once again to our speaker today, Dr. Fernanda Grande, for a very informative talk, okay, given by you. And then I would also would like to thank all the participants who joined these sessions. So as a reminder, the recording will be available, I think, in the Google Drive that we share on the webinar chat. Okay, and we also would like to take group photo, right? For
the
this
group
session.
photo. Yes,
Okay.
thank you. So I can do it. 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Justin, you were not. Well, let's take another one. Sorry.
Oh.
3,
Sure.
2, 1. Yes, great. Hey, yes, this is really good. Thank you so much, Dr. Fernanda. It's a pleasure to hear from you, for all the students. Just a quick reminder for all participants, tomorrow we will have the presentation from Bioeconomy, Sustainable Bioeconomy for Agri-Food Transformation by our colleagues from OCV. And thank you very much. Looking forward to see you again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.